What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about color grading, my thoughts on color grading, and how I do it, like what my thought process is, what some of the more important sliders actually mean. So let's roll that intro and let's get started. Okay, I know I sound like death. We've been sick. It's not the flu, it's not Rona, it's not strep, it's nothing like that. It's just a virus and it's hit us hard. We've been sick since Thursday and it's been rough. But we're finally on the mend, getting better. I just still sound pretty hoarse. But regardless, that's not the point of the video. The point of the video today is talking about color grading. Whether it be photos or video, it doesn't matter. This applies to both. I am going to talk about color grading. Currently, I am shooting in log, and so when you look at log footage by itself, it is plain and dreary and no contrast and no saturation, and it looks like this. And so why would you want to shoot like this? Because it's just going to take so much extra work to get it to look quote-unquote normal, right? Yes and no. So when you have log footage, you can slowly add back in the contrast and you can slowly add back in the saturation and you can get everything looking good and control what you want it to look like, especially if I'm shooting outside and it's super bright and having shadowy places. The ability to push the shadows and the highlights the directions that I need to really allow me to capture a better looking image shooting log than I would be able to if I were shooting a baked in profile. And I can tell you there are 4 sliders that I think are the most important sliders to mess with when you are color grading anything. And it's, believe it or not, it is not the color temperature and it is not the tone. Those are important to get set right. I use a gray card so that I can get it set first and then start my color grading. I consider getting that correct, color correction, and then color grading. Today we're just talking about color grading, not color correction. We'll talk about that in a separate video and I'll pull out the gray card and I'll show you how to do it and all that mess. But today we're talking about 4 big sliders. Number 1 is the blacks, and let's talk about that first, and I'm going to show you what it does. I'm going to adjust it now up and down while I'm talking so you can see. What you're doing is you're taking the absolute black line and moving it up and down and having control over how dark it actually is. Same thing applies to the whites, but on the opposite end of the spectrum. When you start moving up and down those whites, you can see that it starts pulling the top peaking white down or pushing it up depending on where it is. And so if you've overblown your shot or underexposed your shot, sometimes you can't pull that detail back. But when you expose correctly, 9 times out of 10, you have that wiggle room to be able to push and pull like that. And getting those lines set, I always try to do my black baseline at 10 on a vector scope, when I'll try to throw in a little clip right here of what that looks like. And I try to keep my whites at around 90 so that I'm not pushing, or if something does have to push, I have that little extra 10 space to work with. But keeping it there, it doesn't look muted, but it still gives me the ability to have that little bit of wiggle room. Next up is contrast and saturation. Believe it or not, these two work together so well, and these are the two that I use the most in conjunction with each other. Because the higher my contrast goes, the lower my saturation goes, and the higher my saturation goes, the lower my contrast goes. I know you're thinking, what, why? Well, let me show you. If I bump up the contrast and I'll lower the saturation, it balances out. If I raise the saturation and then lower the contrast, as you can see, it still allows it to look semi-natural with more dynamic range showing. And so having that ability to control how much you're seeing versus how much you want dark versus light, having the control over the contrast and saturation and the way they work together is so important, because a lot of times, especially at work in a corporate style job, I will turn my contrast almost all the way down and then turn up my saturation to bring those colors out, but then you're still seeing all the details and the highlights and the shadows. So those 4 sliders make a huge difference in the way that everything comes across. And so I hope this video helped you kind of have a better understanding of how that color grading process works with just those 4 sliders, and we'll get into like a bigger overview of color grading as a whole. This was just supposed to be a quick video. Say I'm back. I've missed making videos, and basically I just wanted to make something today for fun, so this is what you get. Hope you enjoyed it. I love you guys. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, it means the world to me. I love you guys. Don't forget to live that creative life. I will see you next time. Bye.